Let's take a quick look at oxygen regulators. I've got 5 of them here that we provide at O3 Vets depending on the generator and the oxygen tank. We're going to start on my left with what's called a 540 Pediatric Oxygen Regulator. The 540 has this nut and little stem that attaches to an industrial oxygen tank or a large medical tank. When I say large, I'm talking like an H tank or a K tank, something that's 4 to 5 feet tall. So a very large oxygen tank. That's the 540 oxygen regulator, and it has a barb connector to push silicone tubing onto that. It has a gauge. All of them come with a gauge that shows you the pressure of the oxygen in the tank. And this is in PSI, so pounds per square inch. That's the 540. This is one we typically use for our hummingbird ozone generator. This is an 870 pediatric oxygen regulator. It goes from 1/32 of a liter per minute down to, or up to, I should say, 4 liters per minute. And it connects to a medical oxygen tank. So the 870 has this square cutout and 2 pegs here that mate up with a medical oxygen tank. A D tank and an M6 tank are the ones that we provide here at O3 Vets. Also has a barb connector, and all of these, or I should say most of them, have a dial on the end that adjusts the flow rate. We're going to go to my far right now, and this is an 870 oxygen regulator as well. The only difference on this one, well, there's 2 differences actually. One is flow rate, so this goes up to 8 liters per minute. This is not a pediatric regulator. And it has a push connector. So we push rigid tubing into this connector. This is something that we can use for our Ozonette or Ozonobaric P, I should say, generators. And the next regulator we have is again a 540. And the 2 differences are exactly like the one I just showed you, which is the flow rate goes up to 8 liters per minute, and it has a push connector for that rigid tubing. So these regulators over here would be used for our Ozonette or Ozonobaric P generators. The ones over here would be used for the Monarch or for the hummingbird ozone generator. In the middle, I have a oxygen regulator that comes standard with the Ozonette and Ozonobaric P generators. And it's a regulator that is medical, so it'll fit on a medical tank. It has a push connector that rotates, and this measures the pressure in your tank according to bar, so it's not PSI, it's a different type of measurement. And there is no adjuster on this, so the flow rate is constant. And it is intended again for the Ozonette and the Ozonobaric P generators. These are replacement regulators for those, but this is a heavier duty regulator for those. So there's just a couple differences on the oxygen regulators that we carry. Okay, let's talk oxygen tanks. So on my left here, we have an M6 medical tank. In the middle, we have a D tank. It's also medical. And the medical tanks you'll see in the United States, most of them look like this. Once you get to a big tank, again, an H or K tank, something a bit bigger, you're gonna look more similar to this, but it will be 4 to 5 feet tall. On my right here, this is an industrial oxygen tank. This is a 20 cubic foot tank, okay? So if you have, if you're doing ozone therapy and you need a tank, these 2 tanks you'll need a prescription to fill. We cannot send any tanks full. You need to get them filled locally. And ideally, you'll actually get the tank locally as well. I just want you to know what types of tanks we recommend. The regulators that we sell can fit all different sizes of tanks. There's really 2 standard connections. You have a medical 870 regulator and you have a 540 connection. That one screws on to this. So all of these have valves. This has a little knob. This has a toggle valve that you can turn to open, close the top of the tank. And as far as the liters, so we measure how much oxygen these hold in liters. And we have charts that show that for you. And I can put one of those on the screen so you know exactly what the different sizes of tanks are. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to attach an oxygen regulator and what the difference is there. We've already gone through in the video oxygen regulators. So this goes onto your medical tank. It goes either onto the M6 or onto the D tank, and just tightens down by hand. So that's those two. This one, you're just going to push it in, line it up, 90-degree angle, and then use your fingers to tighten this down. Before you get the regulator too tight, you can turn this so that the dial is visible to you. And you can actually hand tighten this. Typically, it won't leak. If it's just hand tight, I'm going to turn this off. I've opened the tank, there's oxygen in it, and it's not leaking. However, I do like to recommend that you use a crescent wrench or some sort of a wrench, an adjustable wrench, anything you have to tighten that down a little bit more. That's all you need to do. It doesn't need to be overly tightened, but that's nice and tight. So these are the different oxygen tanks and the regulators and how to assemble those.